Okay, so really, this is we had today when the Chanukah today. You're really attacking us sports fans.
Today, I know. And what do you think my kids did? I said the minute after Havdalah, those kids are on the thing. They're watching a spring training game. How's that for Avodah Zarah? Alonso hit a home run. They're already all excited. I try to tell them. I don't know. They tell me it's not Avodah Zarah. Whatever. Shine, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about it? Okay, so tonight's daf is really 6 lines, but since we didn't get enough done on Friday, so we have to do Amud base. So okay, so the preview of tonight is.
I think we got up to the Mishnah, no?
We got up to the Mishnah, yeah, on the bottom of Lamed Beis
Right.
Lamed Beis Amud. So tonight's daf, so the first part of the daf has to do with it's really in the Dorim sugya, not so much a Nazir sugya, where is because we know there's such a thing as being matter somebody's nether. So one of the things that the Chacham has is charata, right? If the guy has charata, or what's the other one called? Charata, or he gives him a pesach that he would not have made it. So the shaila is a theoretical, like it's called noilad, meaning is it a pesach? If we would have asked him, had you known such and such would happen, would you have made the neder? Meaning is that not enough of a pesach, or does that have to actually be a pesach? That's the first part of the daf, and then the second part of the daf is the Mishnah with all those 6 guys gambling with each other, whether the guy's a nazir, whether he's not a nazir, and then yes, and then that takes us to Lamed Gimel Aleph, and then we go from there. Okay, so Azok the Mishnah, yeah. Okay, so Misha Nadav, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Misha Nadav Nazir. So a guy makes a nether that he's a Nazir. V'halav lavi es behemtai, and he went to bring his behema. Umatza shenignava, and his behema was stolen. So this is a standard Nazir. Yeah, we're just starting now. Yeah, on the Mishnah on the bottom of Lamed Beis Amud. So Misha Nadar Nazir. If somebody makes a nether that he's a Nazir, V'halav lavi es behemtai. And he went to bring his behema, right? His Nazirus is over. He went to bring his behema, and then he sees that it's stolen. He sees it's stolen. So now what? Does he have to bring it or not? So if he made himself a Nazir before it's a pellet. The kids were not in here for the last 25 minutes. They were not. It was quiet. You start the dam and they just come flying in. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I got. Maybe have to switch location. Okay. So again, so it got his animal got stolen. If his. Okay, I'm gonna lock myself. It's too much. I'm sorry. What? I could, but they come barging in there too. Hold on, I apologize. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'll start the Mishnah again. Let's take 4. Okay, take 4. Misha Nadav ben Nazir v'halach lavi es behemto yomatza shenigdava. So he went to he was a Nazir, and then he went to bring his behema, and then he sees it stolen. So imachaloi nigdava behemto Nazar. If he became a Nazir before his animal got stolen, hareza Nazir, then he has to keep his Nazirus, right? Meaning the shaila is had he known that his behema was going to get stolen, would he have made the Nazirus in the first place? Right? So even if he says, basically what the Mishnah is saying, is that even if he says, I would never become a Nazir if I know that I'm going to have to, my animal's going to get stolen, I have to replace it, I wouldn't have done it. It doesn't make a difference because that happened after he became a Nazir already. Right? But if he became a Nazir after the animal was already stolen, then ain't a nazir. He's not a nazir. Meaning but he's going to have to be matir, because he's saying I would not. Meaning the difference is that when the animal was stolen before he was a nazir, so he had misinformation, right? If it got stolen, he thought he has his animal in the barn. He hasn't checked on his animal in a week. He made himself a nazir, assuming his animal was there. Then it comes out that his animal was stolen a week ago, right? I don't know how he knows that, but I guess from his video cameras, he sees that the animal, he didn't check his video cameras, and he sees, that animal hasn't been in there since before he was a nazir. So he had misinformation. So when you go to him and say, would you have made yourself a nazir had you known that your animal was stolen? He said, no way, I had an animal. Now I have to go out and buy another animal. So then that's fine. That's you could be matir the nether that way. But if he knew the animals there when he made himself a nazir, and then he wants to say, well, had you known it would have been stolen, would you make a nazir? That's no good, because that is based on the future. This was a mistake that Nachum Amadi made, because what happened was that the Nazirim, we had what was it, 2 weeks ago, that once you come up to, if you become a Nazir in Chutz La'aretz, when you come to Eretz Yisrael, how long you have to be a Nazir for. But whatever it is, they came up, the Nazirim, they became Nazirim in Galus. They did not have communication, so they had no idea that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. So they get there, and there's no Beis HaMikdash. So now what? They're Nazirs for the rest of their lives, right? They have no way to be makar of karbonos. So Umatza Beis HaMikdash Charav, yeah. So Amar Lehem Nachum Amadi, Ilu Hayisam Yoidim Shebeis HaMikdash Charav. So he's looking for a way to be matir their neder. So he says, had you known that the Beis HaMikdash would have been destroyed, Hayisam Nazir, would you have made the Nazir? So Amar Lai. So they told to him, no, we would not have become Nazirs. We're Tiran. And Nachum Amadi was matir it, right? Meaning, because he's saying that that's a good enough Pesach that they would never have made the neder had they known that there was no Beis HaMikdash for them. They would never made the neder that they're a Nazir had they known that there's no Beis HaMikdash, right? Who would ever do that? There's no. You can't bring the carbon. So Amrullah, he said no. They said no. And when it came to the Chachamim, Amru Kol Shenazar Ad Shalei Chara Beis HaMikdash Nazir Umishachara Beis HaMikdash Ein Nazir. If they made the Nazirus before the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, so then they're a Nazir. Why? Because that's something new. That's what's called Noilad. The Beis HaMikdash was around. Meaning, had he asked them when they made the Nazirus, would you have been a Nazir had the Beis HaMikdash been there? Right? So they would have said yes. I'm saying, why should the Beis HaMikdash be destroyed? We'll see this in the Gemara, right? So Mamela, that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed after they became a Nazir, that's Noilad, that's something new that wasn't in place before, and that does not count. Mishachara Beis HaMikdash ain't a Nazir. But when they became a Nazir after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, so then they had misinformation. Meaning there, if you would have asked them, would you have made the neder to be a Nazir had you known the Beis HaMikdash was already destroyed? Then you could be and he says, of course I wouldn't have. I have no way to get out of the Nazirus, right? So then that's a good Pesach, right? The difference is was the reason why they would not make themselves a Nazir already in place before they made themselves a Nazir. If it was already in place, that was something that existed, and the Nazir just didn't have the right information. So since he didn't have the right information, so we're going to be matir as Nazirus. But if the reason he said he wouldn't be a Nazir happened after he was already a Nazir, that's Noilad. That was not in place. That didn't exist. That reason didn't exist when he became a Nazir. So therefore, it doesn't work. Right? So that was the machlokes between Nachum Amadi and the Chacham. So yeah.
So the Rav Cohen, who was the Nazir 2 generations ago, and this fellow should live and be well, who became a Nazir now. Why don't we say, and we had 2 blot ago, that we said you take a survey, you do ayin yafa or ayin ra when you give tzedakah, or why don't you just take a survey? 99% of the people in the world will never become a Nazir because they can't get out of it. So maybe this guy's Nazirus is not a Nazirus.
What, Batla Daita?
Yeah, say Batla Daita or either, whatever you want to say. Maybe
The
just
problem,
maybe.
the problem is that he knew about it. No.
So he knew about it. So what? With the other case in the Gemara, we say he didn't mean the animal because people don't give that animal. He gave that. He wanted to give that animal. What are you telling me?
Problem is that
You took a survey.
I don't know. I don't know if we would say that. We're going to say about when Mavatal his das to everybody else. Would we say that? I don't know if we say that in this case. I mean, one thing is for sure. If you went over to him and said, hey, by the way, there's no base on mikdash. You can't be making any korban. He's going to say, I don't care. Right? Didn't he say on that thing that he's a Nazir Olam anyways?
I didn't watch the whole thing. I just saw the first few
minutes.
minutes.
Didn't he say
he's another Shimshon? He's another Shimshon.
Oh, he's another Shimshon. Okay, so that's worse. Or not worse, whatever. That's law. I mean, that's it. He's a.
But he said he made a Tanai that in the same Amira, I don't know if it works like this. He said he made in the same Amira, he made some sort of other Tanai that if he's able to be matter that other Tanai, that he could to give himself an out. That if he's ever, that's what he said. I don't know if it works like that.
I guess if he goes to a chacham and the chacham's matter it for him, with I guess no.
I thought it was it a Mishnah or a Gemara Mefarashes that said that you could say it in the same Amir with another Tanai to Mevatel?
Well, we had that if you want to add on in the Naziris, if you have a suffix, which we're going to have also in tomorrow, I think tomorrow, I don't even know. I think tomorrow. But that's on the second Naziris. On the original Naziris, I don't know. Could be. All right, so let's see the Gemara.
Yaakov,
yeah.
As a side point, other than Kabbalah's Shabbos, is there anywhere else you've come across Nachum Amadi? It's the first Mishnah Bama Madlikin.
Correct.
And this would have been Friday's stuff.
Questions
Shabbos, right?
that we have for afterwards, or let's guess the answer, or for after the daf. Extra credit, goes on the Parsha question.
All right, so I know that is it. Yeah. The Mashkiach has spoken. We go back to.
Yeah, I shouldn't thought he turned into Abu Sabanim. He didn't realize he turned into the Daf.
Gershon, if you go to the closet behind the dining room and check, the parrot has prizes for you for the extra credit.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Let's see the Gemara. Yeah. So, Amar Rabba, Shatfu Rabbanan l'Rebbe Lazar. Another interesting lashon, a Nazir lashon. Shatfu Rabbanan l'Rebbe Eliezer. Ukmi b'shita sayu. The Rabbanan washed out. I guess that would be the way to teach it. Meaning they washed him out. Meaning they made him be minded to them. Right? And the Rebbe Eliezer went onto the Shita of the Rabbanan, the Tanan, Paisim ben Noilad, Rebbe Eliezer, right? So we had this in Nedarim. So Rebbe Eliezer holds you can use a Pesach with Noilad, which is what Nachum Amadi did. Right? Meaning again, Noilad is something you tell the guy, had you known such and such would have happened, would you have made the Naziris? So he says no. So then you can be matir. But Chacham say no, you can't use Noilad. You have to only use something that happened when he became a Nazir, which is what we just said. Depends when the animal died. If the animal was dead before he made the Nazirus, then that works. That's not Noilad. That already happened. He just didn't know about it. But when the animal died after he became a Nazir, that's Noilad. That's something new. So Rebbe Eliezer came, and the Chachamim convinced Rebbe Eliezer. Now, what's a pshat? How did they convince Rebbe Eliezer? Because here it said the Chachamim disagree with Nachum Amadi, and the Gemara is assuming that Rebbe Eliezer was around, and if Rebbe Eliezer was on Nachum Amadi's side, the Mishnah would have said that Nachum Amadi had Rebbe Eliezer to rely on, right? But since he didn't, the Mishnah doesn't say that, and it seems like Nachum Amadi was a lone opinion. So there must be Rebbe Eliezer also came around and he held that Noilad is not a good Pesach. Fine. So even though a person is not Pesach b'Noilad, a person but Tanai Noilad, right? So you can do a Pesach on a Tanai of a Noilad, which I think the word Tanai here is not like a Tanai, like a condition. Right? Meaning why? Because hey, Kidami, what's the case? Amri Lahain, if we tell them, Ilu ata init, asa inish, if a person had come to tell you, and they said to you, that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed? Mi havin adrisan, would you have said the neder? right? Meaning, would you have made the nether? So, meaning, would you have believed that the Beis Hamikdash was going to be destroyed or not? Meaning, were you in such a hot mood? I guess you were so on fire for good or for bad, whichever way you want to go. With another is good, another is bad. The guy was so on fire that you would have made this guy tells you, don't become a Nazir. The Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. If you would have said, I don't care, I'm becoming a Nazir anyways. So then it's then he would be a Nazir, right? So again, if he says I wouldn't have, then that's good enough. If he says no, well, I wouldn't have listened to him.
Why
Right?
is it better than the other piece of the Mishnah?
Which case?
Why does it take care of the Nirlid problem?
Why does it take you? Because here we're telling him right away. We're telling him right away that my nephew's here, if anyone's wondering, because Liner's not here, right? So they would have here they told him.
We're talking about the Gemara where it was, yeah, but we're trying to say in a case where Nirlid, even though Nirlid doesn't work, we're trying to bring it to the present. So we're talking before the basement was destroyed, right?
What are you saying, that he's telling him that it's possible that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed as opposed to
we're
it being
previous,
destroyed?
We're not before the basement was destroyed, and still this is not going to be a problem with Nirlid. There's a way to get around the Nirlid problem.
Well, that's why it's called a Tanai, no? He's making the actual situation of the Beis Hamikdash irrelevant.
I think the
It's
Rush,
based on when he made the
So
Naziris.
look at the Rush, the way the Rush explains it. Right, he says if the Rush says if we would have given him an Eitzah, the guy says, I'm going to become a Nazir. The guy comes and says, I'm going to give you an Eitzah Taiva. This Beis Hamikdash might just be destroyed, right? Right? So if they would have, he says to them, by the way,
warned them about the possibility.
Correct.
That it's not Nirlid.
correct, yeah,
Not because it's going to be destroyed. I'm telling you then that there's a possibility now.
correct.
Okay,
The way the Rush learns it is that he's saying the Beis Hamikdash, even though the lashon of the Gemara is Techara Beis Hamikdash. So it's meaning, but it doesn't mean that it was destroyed. I said it that, the Taich, I think, means that it was destroyed. The Rush is learning it wasn't destroyed. It's bound to be destroyed. And if it's destroyed before you bring your animals, you're in hot water. So if the guy would answer, I would have listened to this guy's Eitzah, so then that's a Pesach. Right? Even if you hold that Noilad, which is what we hold, that Noilad is not a good, right? They're not a good Pesach. But if the guy would have entertained the possibility of it, and he would have been advised not to make the Naziris, if he would have listened, then that would be enough of a Pesach, because that's not just a Noilad thing. He's telling him it's a Tanai. It's called a Tanai. So I think it's a little hard to understand what it's a Tanai, but he's saying, there is a possibility. And if the guy would have said, had I entertained that possibility, then I wouldn't have been another Nazir, then that's enough. Right?
Aren't we talking about the second Beis Hamikdash?
What?
We're talking about the second Beis Hamikdash here, right?
I don't know either one. The story was the second Beis Hamikdash, but
right. So before the end of the second Beis Hamikdash, before the Churban, there was months where the Romans didn't allow them to bring korbanos.
Right. You mean so a guy should have
before? Either way, yeah.
I guess it's not. I don't know. I guess it's not taking that into account. Or you want to say that? They should have realized that, and anyways, they
yeah. That should have been the out. The out is that the Romans weren't allowing anyway.
That's not an out. Fakir.
Who said they wanted an out? What are you saying they wanted an out?
He wants to be matir here. He's trying to be matir as Naziris. The problem is that it's Noilad.
Where does it say that?
Well, they came to Beis Hamikdash. Well, we're looking to help them out.
What's he supposed to do? We're trying to help them out. The problem is that any help is Noilad. I'm saying it's not Noilad because you couldn't have brought a carbon 3 months ago anyway.
And I'll say Fakir, Gershon. I'll say Fakir. Why are you making a Naziris if you realize the Romans are not letting people? What are you doing that for?
This guy obviously didn't know anything. He didn't know the Beis Hamikdash was nachrat.
So now he's saying something else. So this guy's his head stuck in the ground, and he doesn't know what.
He obviously does. He knew nothing.
He doesn't follow the news. He doesn't follow the news.
I didn't want to get excited about it.
He doesn't get it.
For a year before the Churban, they know there was going to be a Churban.
Okay, so maybe that's sort of like what Rabbi Yosef saying, the next line. See, I'm Rabbi Yosef. Yeah, because look, maybe this is what you're saying. Maybe that's what Rabbi Yosef is saying. I'm Rabbi Yosef. If I would have been there by this interaction between the Chachamim and Nachum Amadei, Hava Amina Lahain, I would have said to them, right? Again, another lashon, Hava Amina. This is not what Hava Amina normally means. Hava Amina means I would have thought. Here he says, I would have said. I'm saying it means it's the same taich, but it's not used in the regular way we use it. Hava Amina, I would have said lahain to them. Haksiv. It says Heichal Hashem, Heichal Hashem, Heichal Hashem Hema. Right? It says Heichal Hashem 3 times. Zem Mikdash Rishon and Mikdash Sheni. Right? So that means there's 3 Beis HaMikdashes. There's a 1 because it says Heichal Hashem, Heichal Hashem, Heichal Hashem. So it means there's 2 Beis HaMikdash. That means they're going to be destroyed. Otherwise, where is there a 3rd Beis HaMikdash? So you should have known. Right? You should have known that there would have been that there's going to be a churban. Right? And if Mela, what you could have done is you could have asked the Nazir, had you remembered this pasuk? See, they were Shiva Bachrim, they didn't learn Nach, so they didn't know the pasuk, right? So they asked him, by the way, had you known about this pasuk, you heard of something called Nach? They had this pasuk there that says Heichal Hashem 3 times. So it means that there's 2, we have 2 Beis HaMikdash, it means it's going down and there's going to be a 3rd one. So had you realized that you might end up not having a Beis HaMikdash, would you have made your neder? Would you have made the Nazir? So if they would have said no, then no. So then the Gemara answers, yes, they knew the pasuk that it's going to be destroyed. They didn't know when. They figured they'll take their chances. They'll take their chances that they're going to get in their carbon before it's destroyed. They don't know when. 70 sevens, right? 7, how do you say? Shivim, nechtach, right, what's 70 times, right, 70 times 70. Yeah, right, that's 490. Yeah, that nechtach al amcha v'al ir kodshecha. It's going to be nechtach, it's going to be, chotach really means it's going to be a peace, but meaning there's going to be a destruction 490 years later, right? Because you have 70 years of the Galus plus 420 years of the 2nd Beis HaMikdash. That makes 490. I'm very good at sevens because of touchdowns. I could do multiplication because of touch. Anything with the 7, I was always good at. 3 because of field goals and 7 because of touchdowns. So I'm not bad here. I'm not as fast with 7D, but I forget the zeros, but it's close enough, right? So that's 490. So you see that they should have just counted 490 years from when the 1st Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. And they know the 2nd Beis HaMikdash is going to be destroyed. What do you mean you don't know when? So when it answers, Va'akati miyadina behei yoima. You don't know what day of the year. I don't know. This teretz is a rough one for me to understand. You don't know what day. So you're gambling on the days. I mean, also you could say Tisha B'Av was the Meraglim, right? Tisha B'Av was the first day, was the 1st Beis HaMikdash. I mean, I don't know if the odds makers would tell me, don't make a test Sivan, do not become a Nazir, right? Okay, but this thing they didn't know what day, so Mamela, there's no time on them. Okay, talk to Mishnah. So this we had a few days ago. They were walking, and there was this guy walking opposite them. And they didn't know who he was, right? One of them said, Hareini Nazir Shazeh Pliny. I'm gambling. I'm saying that this is Pliny. If not, I'm a Nazir. So of course, like we said, his friend's going to take automatically the opposite side of the bet. And he said, it's not him. Yeah. Then the 3rd guy says, Hareini Nazir She'echad Michem Nazir. I'm making myself a Nazir that one of you guys is going to be a Nazir. Then the other guy, the 4th guy says, She'ein echad michem nazir, that one of you is not a nazir. Then the 5th guy says, Sheshnechem nazirim, which obviously can't be. They're both going to be nazirim. Shekulchem nazirim, and the 6th guy said, everybody's nazirim. So then we have machlekes b'sham v'yishil. B'sham yomim kula nazirim. They're all nazir. That's very cryptic. We'll see in the Gemara what that means. But okay, Beishamai says they're all nazirim because basically when Beishamai learns it All these guys planned on becoming a Nazir. They just decided to play games with why they're becoming a Nazir. But their bottom line is they meant that they're becoming a Nazir. Right? So, and Beis Hillel says they're not a Nazir, only somebody whose words didn't come true. What does that mean? Then why is he a Nazir? Right? Beis Hillel says if his words didn't come true, he's not a Nazir. So, what, right? Meaning, no, I'm sorry. He says, "Ain." It's double negative. Ain a Nazir, Ella mi shaloinish kaimadorv. He's not a Nazir. Only somebody whose words were not makuyim. So that means if his words were not makuyim, right? Then he's a Nazir. Right? Why is he a Nazir if the Tanai doesn't work? Right? That basically saying the first guy says, "Oh, I'm a Nazir if this guy coming is Ruvain." Okay, and then so Beis Hillel is saying if he's not Ruvain, then he's a Nazir, right? We'll continue in the Gemara. The Gemara changes it. But Reb Tarfon, third shita, Ein Echad Mehem Nazir. He takes mamish the opposite of Besham. He says none of them are Nazir because it was all on a Tanai, and he says that a Nazirus but Tanai is not Nazirus. Hirsi Allah Chayrav. Last case. Let's say the guy never walked there, so they see this guy walking towards them, right? And they say, okay, we're gonna say he's this one, that one. And he wasn't, right? So you see the meaning he turned around and nobody got to figure out who the guy was. So now these guys are all big Suffolk Nazirs. So ain't a Nazir, right? So the guy is not a Nazir, right? Meaning none of them are Nazirs, right? Which we're going to see in the Gemara why that is. Rav Shimon has an eitzah. Rav Shimon says, do it with a Tanai. Yoimar, I guess it is tonight's stuff, Yitzi. Rav Shimon Yoimar, he says, if I was right that this guy coming here was the fellow who I thought he was, so then I'm a Nazir with a Chiyuv. But if it wasn't him, already Nazir Nedava, so then I'm a Nazir Nedava. And then he can, after those 30 days, he could be Makar V'Karban. Okay, so that's basically, again, the Mishnah has in the, if they figured out who the guy is, Beis Shammai says they're all still Nazir. Beis Hillel, we're not sure what he says. We're about to see that in the Gemara. And Reb Tarfon says none of them are Nazir. If the guy turned around so nobody was able to figure out who he was, so then we have a machlokes. Right? Reb Shimon says, Reb Tarfon says, I'm sorry, the Tanakama says he's not a Nazir. And Reb Shimon says he should make himself a Tanai, a Nazir with Tanai, and then it works. Right? The Tanai is that if he was right, then he's a real Nazir. If he wasn't, then he's a voluntary Nazir. So Zok the Gemara, or Frek the Gemara, Mishaloi Neskaima Dvarov. Beis Hillel says that a guy is a Nazir if his words don't come true. So how could that be? Mishaloi Neskaima Dvarov, am I having Nazir? Why is he a Nazir? So I'm a Rav Yehuda, the Gemara answers, I'm a Rav Yehuda, Ema, Misha Neskaima Dvarov. Doesn't mean Mishaloi Neskaima Dvarov, just change it. And it meant Neskaima Dvarov. Yeah. So that's okay. So that's the easy way to answer. Just change it, right? On to Amud Aleph. Abaya Omar, going to Omar. Abaya says it's for example. He said inami lav ploinihu. What he did is he did a classic a Nazir in Masechta Nazir move. He said if the guy coming is the guy who I think it is, I'm a Nazir, right? Then he said, nah, you know what? I'm saying that it's not him. If it's not him, I'm a Nazir. So now what do we have? He said in 1 second, he said, well, within 3 seconds, as we'll see in a minute, he says, if this guy's coming, he's a Nazir. Then he said, no. If he's not the guy, then I'm a Nazir. So which way would we go with it? See, okay, I stopped before. Inami lav plinihu. Ihavi Nazi, basically with that Aleph in the Ranchberg. So he took out the Ihavi, and some say Ihavi is one word, not meaning not Ihavi, if I would be. He says, if this guy is not the fellow who I think it is, Ihavi Nazir, I will be a Nazir. Right? So now basically we have two versions of what this guy said. So which one is the Iker, the first one or the second one? So my line the sky medvarov. So now what do you mean if his words weren't mekuyim? Line miskama dvarav harishonim ela dvarav ha'achrayim. If his first words didn't come true, but his second words were true, then he's a Nazir. Right? Meaning, he said the first one, he said that if the guy coming here is Ruvain, I'm a Nazir. Then he says, no. If it's not Ruvain, I'm a Nazir. And so we say, basically what we're saying is that we go with his second words, not his first words. So if it was not like his first words, but it was like his second words, then he's a Nazir. Right? Meaning the guy didn't end up being who he thought it was. I'm sorry, it ended up being the guy who was, and he says, I'm not a Nazir, so then he's not a Nazir, because we go with his second. Again, he said, if the guy is coming, I'm a Nazir. Then he changed his mind. He said, if the guy coming is my friend, then I'm not a Nazir. So what Beis Hillel means is that if the first Tanai he made didn't come true, then he is not going to be a Nazir. Right. He's not going to be a Nazir unless his second words came true. Right? He says, if he's not my friend, again, he said, the first words he said is, if the guy is my friend, I'm a Nazir. Then he says, if my guy is, if it's not him, I think I explained it wrong the first time. Look, strike it clean. Let's just make sure we have it. The first thing he said, I apologize. The first thing he said is, I am a Nazir if it's my friend. Then within 3 seconds, he says, if it's not my friend, I'm a Nazir. Okay? So he changed. So now what ended up happening is that, so what Beis Hillel is saying is if his words were not true, what does that mean? Meaning his first words were not true, and his second words were true, then he becomes a Nazir. So that's what it meant. That's what Beis Hillel was saying. Beis Hillel was saying we don't go with his first words, we go with his second words, and that's it. So if his first words weren't Mekuyim, and it ended up being not his friend, therefore he's a Nazir. That's essentially what it's saying. But of course, it has to be within Toich Kedei Dibur. Right? We have to say that it's Toich Kedei Dibur, because if it's not Toich Kedei Dibur, then why wouldn't his first Nazirus be Chal? Right? It's only that his second Nazirus would slug it up. That's how we're saying it. Yeah.
So is there any machlekes between Rav Yehuda and Abaya, or just the case machlekes? Abaya is just changing the case, but they're both saying the same thing. Whatever he said that came out correct, he's a Nazir. If it's incorrect, he's not a Nazir.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. Okay. Now, okay. It's not kedai to start this next sugya because it goes weiter. Amud Beis is Amud Beis. That's all that we said. All these Toisasin belong to Lamed Aleph, to Daf Lamed Aleph. So yeah. Okay. So we'll stop here. Everybody should have themselves a good vach.
Is Gershon staying on during the Toisasin?
Who?
Gershon.
Is what?
Is he staying on and giving share on the Toisasin?
He could, but I gotta go to a dinner now. I gotta go to a dinner, so.
Where Tzviagovic can call you?
Let me just get into the car, and then yeah. Anyways, all right. A good talk, everybody. A good year, and yeah, enjoy on the base or whatever. Yeah. Tag is it.